Hi, and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Sarah Peternell. I am the owner of Family Nutrition Services in Denver, Colorado. Today's question, I think, is really a good one given the state of the world and so many of our kids going back to school online, and so many of us adults working from home and spending a lot more time in front of our computers. The question that one of my followers on social media asked is, does too much screen time affect my health, my nutrition, and my weight? And it's a great question. Thanks for asking it. The answer is yes. Definitely, all of this screen time has a profound effect on our health. In fact, just today, I was reading a headline and quick abstract article from CNN.com that was all about the ways in which the pandemic, stay at home, and oftentimes isolation has been affecting so many people in terms of things that we may not have anticipated early on in 2020, such as muscle wasting, which is also known as sarcopenia. Okay, so this is actually a big concern for older adults, especially adults over the age of 40. As we get older, we lose muscle if we don't use it. And with a less active or less busy life and lifestyle, we're probably not using our muscles as much as we were pre-pandemic. And so if you're at home more, if you're sitting more, if you're on your computer more, your muscles are actually losing their mass. And so sarcopenia refers to kind of that catabolic process that breaks down muscle to use it in some other way by the body. Maybe it's to get at those essential amino acids to be used for some other purpose, or maybe it's to get to the glycogen that can be used as fuel even for the brain because we're doing maybe more mind work and less physical work with our bodies. That's one of the main reasons during this pandemic that we actually have to make a really conscientious effort to exercise and to try to get outside, walk the dog, go for a bike ride, take a hike, do something so that you're getting up and moving around. And if you can't do that, you at least need to take a break every hour, walk away from your computer, walk away from your screen, and try to do something with your body. Maybe walk up and down the stairs a couple of times, carry the loads of laundry baskets or a couple, bags of groceries, or you could even do some barbells with a can of soup. But you need to be moving your body more than you might be. So, yes, it does affect our health, and it definitely affects our body. This is true for adults and kids, and there are actually some interesting studies that are published. You can find these studies online. One of them is from the Journal of Pediatrics, and it is titled Screen and Media Exposure and the Relationship Between Obesity in Children and Adolescents in America. And their randomized trial showed that reducing screen time helped to reduce weight gain and demonstrated a large cause effect and relationship between screen and media exposure and children, especially adolescents, who had increased eating, especially of high calorie, low nutrient foods like junk foods, and an increase in weight. So not only with our kids being potentially at home and on online school, but this is in addition to some of their other things that they might be doing on screens, which could be playing video games or, texting, watching YouTube, just kind of scrolling through their social media accounts. And this is really creating a pretty catastrophic amount of screen time that kids are getting exposed to, just kind of the constant blue light and other effects, not to mention some of the advertising that is available to them through being on their screens. We all know that there are advertisements on YouTube, there are advertisements on a lot of social media channels, and so I don't know about your kids, but my kids have been coming in asking for more snacks, and what I've found is they're not actually hungry. They're actually getting programmed by some of the marketing machines that are out there to make them think that they actually need chips when they just had lunch. So we need to be paying really close attention. We may not be able to do a lot right now about reducing and monitoring closely screen time, but we can be paying attention to the ways in which we're healthfully feeding our children, what types of foods and snacks we have on hand at home for when they are going throughout their day. So there is some more information. I've got some notes here, and I'm going to be talking with you about some of these other things. So the question that the follower asked was, is screen time affecting my health, my nutrition, and my weight? And so again, we've had a lot of this information. This is not new. We're just seeing it really come to a head. We're really seeing it kind of at its peak right now. But screen time definitely has its effects. I talked about sarcopenia, and I talked about kids and junk food and eating more and that relationship with obesity. We also know that for younger children, kids may be having behavioral issues, not only just because of the exposure to screens, but because of some of the utilization of nutrients that younger children have a need for, that they may be depleting too quickly because of their exposure to screens. So I find this quite fascinating. So our nutrient intake really needs to be on par when we are doing this much screen time. A relationship study between Japanese children and adolescents and the amount of screen time that they were getting, to take a look and see what kind of nutritional impacts did this have, gave us the following information. Especially in boys, longer television viewing times, TV basically being the catch-all term for sitting in front of a screen. This was correlated with lower intakes of protein, potassium, calcium, iron, vitamin K, and vitamin B2, and not to mention a lower intake of dietary fiber, which was more than likely affecting their digestive health. In girls, longer screen time is correlated also with protein, sodium, calcium, vitamin D, and vitamin B2. In both groups, higher amounts of screen time are correlated with lower intake of omega-3 fatty acids. And we also see a higher intake of omega-6 fatty acids, which are the refined, processed, hydrogenated, not so healthy oils in our kids. That's because those are the types of oils that are in those shelf-stable snacks. So you do want to be really mindful, not only just maybe the macronutrient imbalance or the low nutritional quality, but also too much of those polyunsaturated fats, which can lead to inflammation, which can lead to cardiovascular risk factors, and which can also lead to some lipid profile changes. If your kid were to have blood work, it may look like they're having some issues with their cholesterol or triglycerides because of the intake of those omega-6s in a short period of time, right, since March or April of this year, and that is having a negative impact on their health. So this research study I found to be particularly interesting. It was actually published back in 2018, August of 2018, and I think it's pretty applicable to what we know today. Their summary is that boys and girls using too much screen time, that includes television, PC, laptop, handheld devices, those children have a lower vitamin and mineral nutrition status in their bodies. And their results supported the need for intervention programs that not only focus on decreasing screen time in both genders, but also encouraging adherence to a stronger, more appropriate nutritional guideline for children of these age groups. So these are pretty serious questions. I've talked a lot about kids because there's research, right, that I've just read to you from PubMed. And again, you can find those online as well. As far as adults are concerned, I think the biggest thing that we're seeing, and it's actually kind of a joke, is that the COVID-19 is real. Raise your hand if you've gained a couple of pounds during this time. I know I have, and I've been maintaining a pretty active um, exercise routine as I normally do. I think one of the things that we're seeing is maybe more stress eating and coping, right? To deal with some of the feelings, the isolation, worries about our kids, worries about maybe the future, worries about the health of a loved one. I have some other pandemic resource videos that you may be interested in. You can check those out here as well on my YouTube channel. But just talking about weight, which applies to anyone who's in this time and experiencing maybe just a little bit of extra around the middle, we do know that too much of our screen time, too much of our sitting is causing an increase in weight. So one of my dear colleagues who I send a lot of referrals to, and she does to me as well, we have been working closely with some of our clients and her beloved patients to really help folks get through this time of year, this year, 2020, with better coping strategies. So instead of reaching for an extra glass of wine or maybe a couple more bites of a chocolate chip cookie or whatever it is that's kind of, we've leaned back on some of those bad habits, which is to remember our need for supporting our immune system right now, especially as we get ready to go into fall and winter. Our need for particular vitamin and mineral intake to help keep us healthy. In particular, vitamin D, the mineral zinc, vitamin C, adequate protein, and proper hydration. So these nutritional, basically helping hands, if you will, are going to be what helps to get us through this trifecta cold, flu, COVID season that is upon us. Now, I just want to talk a little bit about some of the ways in which we are basically facing some changes within our culture, right? So again, beyond maybe nutrient acquisition, maybe beyond the weight gain, really the ways in which we're talking about the effects on our culture and how this stay-at-home time, this quarantine time, this pandemic time may just be leading to poorer health. So there was a study in Finland back in 2019, and the study basically concluded that when we have a generation of a number of people, right now we're talking about across the country, we're talking about across the world, who are sort of negatively influenced by heavy screen use over a period of time, that we see negative effects on, regardless of age, regardless of gender, and regardless of other healthy habits like sleep duration and exercise. So I just talked about some of those things being really healthy, but this cross-sectional study basically revealed that increased amount of time in front of screens leads to overall lower health characteristics within the population. So this is, quite concerning. This basically says that even if you are getting some physical activity, you are paying attention to your sleep, you are working on hydration, you are having some care and consideration of your diet, that may not be enough to counterbalance some of the effects. So I have one more thing I wanted to read to you. I've kind of dog-eared all of these articles and published research that I wanted to share with you. The last bit is really about our mental health. The effects that screen time may have on our mood, on our quality of life. Certainly you've maybe read some of the articles about an increase in calls to suicide hotlines. You maybe have read about mental health providers and institutions being busier than ever during this year. Well, there's no wonder. There's a lot going on around us. So impaired cognitive function and changes in mood and behavior have been found to be correlated with too much screen time, which ultimately is a problem that takes place in the brain. It's like we kind of carve in these little patterns in the brain that leads to less efficient information and processing. So that we kind of get literally stuck in a rut with our brains. And I don't want to be too negative, but several studies have indicated that spending significant times with screens actually overall lowers the cardiovascular health of our human population, which ultimately increases our mortality risk. So these data points have been available for more than just this year, and we have the ability to look back on it and to reflect and to say, in what ways maybe is this pandemic negatively affecting me because of the need for me to be working virtually, working from home, not doing some of my normal regular activities like getting out more, maybe doing exercise at the gym, or maybe with your sports team or a club where you normally had not only exercise but community. In fact, many people are even doing online exercise classes through their laptops or TV because that might be all that is available to them. We know that many children are doing online school, and so they're exposed to the hours of learning as well as their leisurely hours on their screens. And we know that from some of the points that I just brought up, that even with some of our best efforts to counterbalance this, the longer that this goes on, we are detrimentally affecting our communities and our population and potentially the longevity of our lifespan. So these are some things to think about. Today, I wanted to share the correlation. I wanted to share the risk factors. I wanted to share that relationship. And I'll be coming back soon with more videos to address some very specific things that you can do for yourself, for your children, and for your family. Thank you so much for watching my video today. Don't get too down by this news and information. I think intuitively we already kind of knew this. But guess what? There are things we can do to fix it. So I'll be back with more soon to share with you some of my top tips for how to counterbalance. You take care, stay healthy, and stay well, and I'll see you soon. Thanks for watching.